so excited to be here today to go over our findings and present this to you. I'm Amy Toscano again. My name is Rena Kovalek.
And I'm Ryan Chadwick.
All right, so we're going to start out with our objective and possible solutions.
So our objective is ultimately to reduce fulfillment costs for Nissan. The Nissan Thanks team has kind of been a little unhappy with the high costs of the fulfillment center, the break-bulk facility, and we took 3 different scenarios to try to reduce those costs. So our first scenario is the current scenario. Autoliv would continue long-haul transportation to and from the Olive Branch facility. Our next scenario, Autoliv would outsource transportation to Nissan for the long haul to and from the Olive Branch facility, and it would still go to the break-bulk facility. Our third scenario, Autoliv would outsource transportation to Canton and the Smyrna facilities, their assemblies facilities and their suppliers, and that would be all provided by Nissan. So that would eliminate the break-bulk facility completely.
So we found that our optimal solution would be to continue the current operations as they are. Looking at the numbers, we found that it was the most optimal, the best option for Nissan, and we'll explain more of that in the upcoming slides.
So before we jumped into our case, I think our biggest question was, why Nissan? Why do we want to continue our relationship with them? What's important? So a lot of the history in the case study explained that Nissan has come a really long way, and we commend them for how far they've come up. At this point, they're 13% of our market share, and the data showed that they had the 3rd highest sales in the auto industry in 2016, which is pretty remarkable from where they initially were. And overall, we resonate with their continuous improvement interests. We share the same ones at Autoliv, and because of that, we want to give Nissan our best advice about how they can potentially grow, because when they grow, we also grow. So now we're going to move into the quantitative analysis that led us to our optimal solution.
So if Nissan were to take over transportation costs, whether it be for the long haul or to and from its suppliers and assembly facilities, they would have to purchase totes. Now, as you can see on the top chart, the tow costs are not cheap. They're, in fact, very expensive. Driver airbag costs about $400, and that's the cheapest tow. Passenger airbag costs about $423, and the curtain airbag costs about $1,087. With that being said, most of the SKUs provided in the study were the curtain airbags, so that would be a very large cost. So in order to get these estimates, we were given the information of containers shipped per year. With that being said, Autoliv was shipping from their facility to the Olive Branch facility, and they were also shipping those containers empty back to Autoliv. So with that being said, I divided that number by 2 because it's going to and from, so it's shipping twice. After that, we did a calculation. We divided it by 20 because in the case study, there was a 17-day cycle for those totes between all the facilities. Given the contingency and emergency scenarios, we went with the higher number that was given to us with 20. So I added up all the, after I divided by 2, I added up all the containers and then divided it by 20, and those are the estimated totes needed for 2018. As you can see, driver airbag, there were only 2 SKUs. You don't need that many of those. Passenger airbag, there were 337. And the curtain airbag, which was the most used and the most expensive container, about $2,089. So the estimated cost comes out to around $2.4 million, and that is paid upfront in 2018. With that being said, totes have a duration of 4 years, so they will have to be repurchased every 4 years. So it's a heavy, very heavy investment.
So for this, we decided to do a financial analysis and look at the numbers for each of our possible solutions. So our first one up here would be for the current solution, the current situation of Autoliv shipping to Olive Branch and using the cross-dock facility. So for shipping costs for the units, times the freight costs, and then plus the MPS cost, plus the negotiation cost, which came to about $750,000. But in addition to that cost, we also have to list the pallet move cost, because that's when we get to the Olive Branch facility and we're doing all the stuff within that includes that cost. So that's about $147,000, which would equal the $897,000 for 2018. But in addition to those numbers, we wanted to predict it for at least our 5-year contract, which would be the next 3 years. So what we did is we used the 9% growth rate that we found in the data given to us, which is for North America. And we divided that by 3, which equaled a 3% growth every year. And in addition to that, we were happy with that 3% because we do have data backing up that we have grown 3% every year. So we were confident with using a 3% growth with our forecasting efforts. And so we used the 3% every year, and we got about $3.7 million for the next 4 years for cost for Nissan for the current situation.
Next, we have Nissan took over the long haul shipping and provide that shipping to and from Olive Branch. So to calculate the cost, we did units times the estimated freight cost plus MPS. The estimated freight cost is the cost that we use, the same cost that was given to us that Autoliv used. We use that because it's practically the same route, I would assume, and it's the same distance. We also kept the MPS rate in there because Autoliv would have to load and unload the trailer and parts for Nissan at their facility. So as you can see, there is a drastic drop in the cost of shipping, about $356,000. But with that being said, like you saw on the previous slide, we would have to purchase a bunch of totes. So the totes, as you saw, was about $2.4 million, and that's a one-time cost for that year. And like I said, in 2022, they would have to repurchase totes. And that number would definitely be higher given the demand growth. Next, since it's still going to the Olive Branch facility, the cost of pallet moves would definitely be a factor. Break bulk, you have to unload, break down the pallets, load them up, store them, and load trucks when they come to take them to the other assembly facilities. So that comes out to about $147,000. So the total estimated shipping cost for 2018 is $2.9 million. But with that being said, 2019 is a big drop off because it eliminates the estimated cost of totes. So over the next 4 years, we calculated the total cost of about $4.5 million, which is about $800,000 more than the current scenario.
And then our last option was if Nissan directly shipped to the assembly in Canton and Smyrna. So we did the units, it's the same as, or the units times the estimated freight cost from MPS, which is about $267,000. And in this one, we wouldn't be using the Olive Branch, so we wouldn't need to use the pallet move cost, so it would just be the initial investment of the totes, which would be $2.4 million. So the first year in 2018 would be about $2.6 million. But in the next few years, it looks like the cheapest option with the 3% growth every year at about in the $200,000 range, which would equal $3.5 million at the end of the 4 years. But when you consider, when we made this calculation, we were using the freight cost, the Olive Branch cost, this was the number that we had, so we aren't accounting for the little bit more distance going to Canton and Smyrna. And then in addition to this, these costs would be inventory, pipeline inventory, and safety stock costs that they'll also have to incur because they aren't using the cross-dock facility. So it is going to end up being more than $3.5 million for the whole operation.
So now we're going to move through to some qualitative analysis. We're just going to highlight, we did a basic pro and con analysis of each scenario.
So for the current situation, the pros would be to utilize the Olive Branch. We have the 5-year contract. We need to at least go to the end of that contract, so we will have to, and we also do have other customers using that Olive Branch. So there is more opportunities there. And then also it keeps low inventory for Nissan because they can store small amount of products in the cross-dock facility, and also the low shipping and handling cost of us doing most of it and not them having to worry about the totes and that costs. And the cons would be the high amount of touches. There are a lot of different steps in the process, so that could be one of the cons. And then also that Nissan has expressed that they dislike the prices that we're doing for the brake bolt.
So next we have our second scenario, which would be Nissan controls the long haul to the olive branch. The pros, Nissan would be in control of transportation costs, primarily shipping costs. They still have to pay for the brake ball costs. But with that being said, they can still utilize just in time. They can utilize lead management. They're not getting all this inventory at once by just cutting out the brake ball facility. The cons for this scenario though is the initial total cost, and that will keep occurring every 4 years. That's a heavy investment right up front. And they accumulate more risk during transportation. I know for a fact Utah, as we can see, has some pretty nasty weather. And in the scenario given to us, they mentioned that they lost 4 trucks last year, and they would have to expedite parts, which is very expensive, even though insurance would cover the cost of the freight damage.
So for the third scenario, it's pretty similar in terms of pros and cons, except we get to cut out the brake ball costs that we would incur at the olive branch location. But still, with the cons, we're still looking at traveling cross country. We have a higher inventory cost, safety stock, and we still have to pay for that nitrogen cost. So it was mentioned in the case study that Autoliv, if they, as they said, outsource the hassle of transportation to Nissan, they didn't have a risk priority number to label what that would look like. So we did an FMEA. Just to highlight some points, our highest risk priority numbers fell under lost product and late delivery because that would stop line shutdowns and create product delays, which is obviously where the highest cost would come from. This FMEA is an analysis of the third option if we cut out the brake bulk facility, and we did that for this one alone because we felt that it was the most risky, excuse me. And because of that, some of these risks may fall along the other options, but we felt that this was the most important. So now we're going to head into our final portion, looking forward at the future of Autoliv. So some things that we should be looking at for the future as our contract at Olive Branch is going to be up in a couple of years, we should be looking forward. So active safety systems are where people are moving, where customers are really concerned with the safety of the vehicle. It said in the case study that there's going to be a 400 to 500 increase, or it was a higher growth rate than passive safety efforts, which means we really need to put our focus in that product development. And we feel that the money that Nissan will save by still using our transportation services, they can invest into their own company, but they can also invest back into Autoliv so we can do product development and be partners in moving forward in the active safety realm.
And with that being said, the growth in demand, the price of all the totes is just going to get higher and higher in the future, and we feel like that is definitely something that Nissan is trying to avoid as they, as mentioned, would like to invest back in their own company and hopefully Autoliv this with it.
There was another question of if we had a clean slate, if we weren't located here in Utah, what would Autoliv do? So I think just an initial idea would be if you look at the Midwest, there's a lot of rural areas that you could still utilize safe chemical testing away from large populous areas. So if we moved our Ogden locations to say maybe northern Texas, so that you still have close proximity to our Mexican suppliers, but you also are in even closer proximity to your customers on the eastern side of the U.S. We felt that might provide more opportunities for Autoliv.
Next, It would be smart, so after the 4 years, the containers are depreciated completely. It'd be smart to invest in collapsible containers. We were given this chart of cube, weight, volume, and the empty containers coming back was a full truckload, and they just filled up the truck, and it was empty. It was air. It was a waste of money. And collapsible containers could reduce that cost because they obviously collapse. You can stack higher. It could become an LTL for the long haul going back to Autoliv. Finally, we'd like to renew the contract with Olive Branch based on the Toyota Mazda plant in Alabama that is being built, which will be estimated $1.3 billion. And that is great for Autoliv for the future of growth and demand.
I'm just going to add to that. We feel that being, Olive Branch, because we have the current relationship with them, it would be easy to renew that contract. We're interested in just still having a presence in that area, being competitive with that Toyota Mazda plant that would be opening. So we apologize. I know there's been a lot of rattling and noises and sounds that have come in during our presentation. So if you have any questions or if you need us to go back to any slides, numbers, feel free to ask us to. Thank you.
Go back to your FMEA slide. What was your thinking behind putting late delivery at the lowest severity score?
We felt that after our tour through Autoliv, Melanie kind of stressed to us that when late deliveries happen, expedited shipping is the automatic solution, even though that's not the most ideal in terms of cost. But at least from what I gathered and what we gathered, that doesn't happen as much as.
To add on to that, this is for the scenario of Nissan cutting out Olive Branch and directly going to its assembly and suppliers. With that being said, since they probably would be doing full truckloads from Autoliv to the suppliers and the assemblies, they are already going to have an extreme amount of inventory on hand, a lot of safety stock. So we just, it is a very it should be higher, it is very risky, but given the scenario that they're going to have all this inventory, safety stock, pipeline stock coming in, we just didn't see that coming as a scenario necessary.
I think we placed the defective products a little bit higher because if something like that would slip through the cracks, it would definitely affect the social bottom line in a greater way than just having a late shipment. So I think that's why that severity was placed a little bit lower.
Can you walk us through how you calculated the number of totes you would need?
Yeah. This one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so given the scenario, we use the column in the case of number of containers shipped per year. So it never said anything about that being one-way, two-way, so we assumed. So we went with that being two-way because they're being shipped from Autoliv and then being shipped back to Autoliv. With that being said, I took the number of containers for each SKU and divided that by 2. And in the scenario, I believe it was Melanie who calculated the cycle for each tote came up for 17 days. And I think it was Brian who said, with that being said, I think for emergency contingency purposes, it would have to be 20 days worth of containers. So I simply, after I divided all them by 2, and I added each container, whichever, so there were 2 for driver airbag, 8 for passenger airbag, and I believe 11 for curtain airbag. I added all 3 of those up separately, and then I divided it by 2, and then by 20.
So why did you divide it by 20?
To be honest,
Because this is total number of shipments per year, and they're telling you you need to hold 20 days on hand.
I think we're trying to get the per day unit for a 20-day cycle time.
Can you go to the cost slide? I think it's there you go. So I think one of the big dependencies is obviously the cost of the totes.
yes.
Just to throw a wrinkle in there, if the totes are already purchased. So Nissan has already bought those totes and they're in circulation already.
Given that they did say 100, they had 100 for their suppliers.
I think those hundreds were only being utilized from the cross-dock to their locations, but are you asking if they already?
In some scenarios, they actually own the totes from our factory all the way to their factory.
Okay.
So we're transporting, so that cost payable. So I'm just asking what
Sure.
is, right? So.
Yeah, I don't, from what I read, I could have missed it, but
No, I'm not talking,
Oh,
okay,
no.
this is a what.
Oh, okay.
I think that if we don't, we wouldn't have to pay the tow cost. I think that just looking at like the numbers with the cost, I think still the third option would be the cheapest, but you still have to account for the inventory and the pipeline and the safety stock. So I think that the second option would probably to be best because they can still use the olive branch. We'll still have that relationship. We'll still be utilizing that, and then they won't have to have all the inventory costs as well. So it would probably be the best option within cost. I don't have the exact calculations, but just kind of looking at it.
So I have a question. Why would Nissan ever do option number 2? Why would they use the olive branch location?
They expressed that it wasn't that they didn't like the Olive Branch location, they didn't like the break bulk negotiated prices that Autoliv had.
Which they would still have if they moved product to olive branch.
Well, I think our goal with that we would renegotiate them and we would, correct me if I'm wrong, but CR English is the logistics that you use. So if we kind of held hands with CR English and Nissan to create a negotiated price that they felt more comfortable with.
So Nissan would take over responsibility of the materials in Ogden, drive it to Olive Branch, which Autoliv then retakes over that product, and then Nissan takes it over once it's shipped. So I guess the confusion right here is that if Nissan's gonna pick up out of Ogden, they're gonna wanna do it in full truckload, right?
Sure.
So they're gonna take a full truckload, however long it takes them to come up with a full truckload, move it to Olive Branch, just to then take another full truckload to their facilities. I'm just confused why they would ever drop that product back off at an Autoliv facility.
My apologies. To be honest, I do understand what you're saying, but we also didn't have like freight costs. So for Nissan to go to those facilities, we didn't have what inventory costs would be,
Right.
which we could have incorporated in. If we had those costs per part or scenarios, it probably definitely would be different and we could see that scenario play out more. But given the information that we had, it was we were kind of limited for that scenario.
And just to add to that, I think the also reason why we made that solution, because when it said the like pallet move, it also said like unloading, storing, it includes storing in there, so we included that. Like they do need a place to store for, I'm not sure like the length of time it's allowed or anything. It could have been stored there and they wouldn't have to incur that other operation.
Sorry. I think another one of our main focuses was the lean management, the low inventory cost was a big focus that we wanted Nissan and Autoliv to carry through. So I think that's why we still wanted to have that location.
No, I totally get that thinking. I just mean in that option 2, Nissan wouldn't be taking advantage of the frequent deliveries or anything like that because unless they want to take a small portion of a truck every single day to Olive Branch, which would be a huge waste of money for them.
Olive Branch to
from Ogden
to
to Olive Branch. If they wanted to use the most of their truck, it would have to be a full truckload,
Sure.
which isn't daily shipments for Nissan. So then shipping it to Olive Branch to store it, you're still holding that week's worth of inventory. They might as well just do option 3. They're hours away from it anyway.
Sure.
So instead they're dropping it off at an Autoliv facility
To be rebundled.
just to move,
Right.
to pay the extra handle cost to drive 2 hours away.
So if you do, so I think option 2 was maintaining the olive branch. The catch that you're thinking is it's immaterial whether it's actually Autoliv olive branch or any 3PL in the area, and you're just going to benchmark olive branch and make sure they're competitive against anybody else.
Yeah, I think because we already had that established
Okay.
relationship with them. But I mean, ultimately, that wasn't our ultimate decision, partly because of the cost, but then it would even be higher because of what you said,
Yeah.
I'll be touching it again at all.
Or somebody else.
Or somebody else, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out.
I have just one more thing, maybe kind of just information, I guess. The collapsible totes idea is a great idea, and it's something that we thought about at Autoliv a lot, but anytime that you're using a collapsible tote, you're then throwing away inserts. So you're replacing the inserts every single time you use that container, so that cost has to be added in too, which is very expensive, just a big reason why we don't do it,
Sure.
because it's a one-time use insert when you collapse
For the
it.
finished goods.
Good for finished goods.
So you guys, could I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you guys have actually calculated that and it is more
It's, yeah,
expensive
we looked
that
at it for a lot of different things, for a lot of different customers. I couldn't say Nissan specific, but the collapsible totes, yeah, the inserts can be pricey when you're spraying them every time.
We do use collapsible totes for the subcomponents and raw material.
Thank you. That concludes the 10 minutes of Q&A.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.